Enlightenment and transformation. Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadows of death, the primordial abyss of wisdom's waters. For it is the treasures and mysteries that lie wait in the dark that transform us and propel us to a new enlightened state. One should neither aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light as wisdom is your darkness. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads you to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the universe you've created. Male is your enlightenment. Female is your transformation. Child is your evolution. Woman, accept the light into your darkness so it may enlighten you. Man, bring your light boldly into the darkness so that it may transform you. Enlightenment and transformation.
I love you so much because you just don't know what you've just done for me. Thank you so much.
Wow. This is like the best call I've had in ages on BTR.
So this show was meant for me to be able to hear today, and I'm so thankful.
That's his home. Therefore, now a new pathway has now been cut in order to get to the Almighty, where there may not have been one. So the communication with them, if they have enough power and strength to talk to us, the communication will be very clear.
That's one of the reasons I don't get into the current events thing too much, because it starts to become a perpetual alarm clock that we just keep hitting snooze on. I speak to the ascended masters, quote unquote. I talk about spiritual stuff, but I also speak about some very practical, we can do today things.
Be as natural as you can be with your spiritual. You can't always go by your feelings, because your feelings are corrupted. Your feelings are just as corrupted as everything else, your chakras and everything else. You got to know what's beyond you, and that's why we have elders. We can't do everything. You can't get everything out of books or a weekend certification. You can have the most powerful, ancient, oldest, most, as far as you know, truthful tradition in your hands. And if you still have a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything. You're not actually going to grow. I try to teach in a way where I make myself obsolete. That's always been my goal, to make myself obsolete.
I really wanted to, kind of big you up. I think you're awesome.
There's a lot of elders out here right now that want to know what's going on. They're not getting on Twitter and stuff like that, but they want to be up on new stuff. Sit down and have some conversations with them. It's not always about hearing their story. It's also about being news reporters for them and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what's happening right now. They may tell you something about what happened in Charleston that you couldn't even. Your spirituality has to create same spiritual family. Okay, and that family exists first inside of you. You have to express the different expressions of that rainbow coalition of spirits inside of you first. Okay, don't let communities hijack that rainbow. The problem is when we come into the conscious community, the dudes are doing the same thing that the women are doing.
I just want to say that I really enjoy your show every Sunday, and my friend and I call it going to church. When we call it, we'll be like, you going to church? And I'm like, where have y'all been at?
God cannot go against its own truth. So anytime you have an inkling that God is going against its own truth, then God is no longer behaving as God. So therefore, the spiritual community doesn't recognize God. You dig where I'm coming from? Or can we have a new thought? Can we step outside of the books for a second and have a new conversation about hair weaves and wigs? Can we have a new conversation about homosexuality? Can we have a new conversation about vegan eating? It's a good day for exercising.
All right. Peace. And welcome everyone. Coming in from Blog Talk. I see you, Brother Anwar. Peace to you. And everyone who's piling in on Blog Talk. I know it usually takes a few minutes for everyone to kind of catch up to what's going on. And you see, you heard the sister on the intro. Me and my friend, we call it going to church. I know that was the sister from last night. I know it was her, same voice. I said it, and she said, no, that wasn't me. That's her. I know it is. But welcome. This is Chief Yuya. and you're listening to KMunity. And this is a product of enlightenment and transformation, which is a product of the Anu Nation. And I like to welcome all of you who are tuning in from the archives and all of you who are tuning in from YouTube right now. We have the live stream up, and all of you who are tuning in from Blog Talk right now, or who may come in later from iTunes, Mixcloud, however you come in, I just want to welcome you. Time is just it's illusionary construct. So we're building right now. Even if you listen to this 30 years after it's broadcasted, it's right now. So don't even worry about it. But of course, again, I want to just welcome all of our longtime listeners as well. And just to catch everyone up, you know, we had a session last night where I kept it pretty light because, you know, late at night, sometimes it's good to kind of just, thank you, Anwar. Appreciate that. I see that. It's kind of good to kind of fall back a little bit sometimes from banging people in the head and, you know, just kind of go with a certain flow. So I just went with the flow last night, and the flow felt like, okay, read a couple of these questions off and give a couple of explanations, and whomever needs to glean something from that, they'll get what they need to get. You know, but it's like an ebb and flow, because the truth is, it's like, you know, it's just like when you're taking supplements, it's best to cycle. You know, even if the herbal, natural, organic supplements, you don't want to take the same thing every day, because your body begins to build up, you know, kind of almost an immunity to them. And some of them will even become poisonous after a while, you know, if you take too much of it. So you have to kind of cycle sometimes 10 days on, 3 days off, or 6 days on, 1 day off, you know, whatever the cycle is that works for you. So it's the same thing with information, because what I'm doing right now, I'm feeding you, and I'm like a chef, you know, so when you're cooking up the meal, you have to determine, you know, how to cycle things, how to, you know, you're not always going to bang the person in the head. If I got on the air every day and started breaking down a bunch of Yoruba words, you would numb out. You would numb out. If I talked about Orisha every day, you'd numb out, you know, or if I just went in every day, you'd numb out. So, you know, it's important to kind of be sensitive to the flow, and, you know, what works well at night, what works during the day, what works good in the dawning. That's one of the things why a lot of times you've heard me on previous shows say, you know, I have my initiations, sure, but initiation is the commencement into something. And there's a certain thing that you bring to the table that makes your initiation real. And though I have to say, from when I first started doing these segments to now, this reality has changed a bit. But I used to always say, you know, I don't have enough gray hairs in my beard to truly consider myself, to me personally, as that Baba. But that has changed a little bit. So I got I got a couple more grays. So, you know, we're getting there. But the point I'm kind of saying is that you learn that tempering and you learn that seasoning through your work, you know, or just as you grow up, as you get older, and you learn how to present in a certain way, what to present, what not to present, so forth and so on. And that just comes through age and seasoning and development and experience and so forth and so on. So yeah, certain things we're still coming into, we're still filing into. But I wanted to tap on something today. And again, I see the phone lines starting to fill up. So I want to say peace to you. Oh, let me give you a number before I go off on something else. 515-605-9862. Yeah, that's it. I did that off the zone. Let me look at it. Yeah, okay. I'm right. 515-605-9862. Just hit the number 1 if you want to speak. All right. If I'm speaking about one thing and you jump in and you ask me a totally irrelevant question, I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to make you answer your own question. All right. So I'm warning you now. Now I can put this warning out there early now, because most people who do that don't listen to the beginning of the show anyway. So those of you who are listening now, you're going to understand why I do what I might do later on if somebody calls in later. All right. People have a tendency of doing that with me because like, oh, Chief's on. Well, let me get this information real quick. Like, again, it's the vending machine thing. No, if you not flowing with the journey, don't come in later. You know. So yeah, but anyway, sometimes you gotta have a little fun with it. So we were speaking about some things, you know, the past couple of days, and one of the things that we've been touching on, and you know, the sister who I know that's her on the intro. I don't know her name. I don't know who she is, but it's got to be her. Voice sounds exactly alike. But she had expressed yesterday that she really appreciated the show that I had did on like struggle and initiation, and you know how they're related to one another and how they correlate. So, and I have gotten a lot of feedback on that. And you know what? Let me say this too before I even get into that. I know I'm doing all these little side things. Brother Byron's Baba's sending off is today. Actually, it actually is they broadcasted online. I was going to put the link up, but I didn't really get a moment to. But just for those of you who who care to know, he's sending off his father. Well, actually, he's in the UK. I'm in the US, so they're 5 hours ahead of us. So it's a little bit after 6 there now. So I'm only gonna they already sent him off. But if any of you have ever done that for a very close loved one, it doesn't end when you put them in the ground. You know that it's a process, and especially that next day when you wake up. That next day is hard. You wake up and you get that flood. So, I'm just kind of keeping you all abreast in terms of that. Those of you interested, I know the men in ministry, that because I gave you guys a ritual to do for today or for yesterday. I don't know how you all organized it, but I'm sure that was a beautiful thing. And Brother Byron has also, we spoke, and he did express that he can feel the help. He can feel the strength coming through. So, it's a good thing, man. It's a good thing, and to make all this fuss over one person, yes, it's necessary and it's important. It's necessary and it's important, and for many of you, I would do no less, just so you know. It's not just because it's Byron, for some I would do more than others. Yeah. But for many of you, I would do the same. All right. And I would expect the same out of those of you who have joined in the help and whatnot. All right. So I just wanted to let you all know that was going on today with him. But yeah, as far as the subject, so, this idea that we've been looking at in terms of struggle and initiation and kind of getting through things and passing through things and the implication of what that means in terms of our growth and how it takes us there. I know a lot of people really connected to that idea, the idea of the struggle, or very similar to your Oya energies. I see you on the line, by the way. You know who I'm talking to. The Oya energies tend to run a lot of times from conflict. But it's very interesting because when Oya shows up, especially like in a reading, that you have two things. There's always the twin of it. You're either facing a very vicious enemy, or you're running away from what you're supposed to do. Oya is very complex, man. Very. I would say Oya is like Eshu. Eshu is a complex energy to teach about, to understand. Peace, Miss Harris. To understand and things like that. And Oya is very similar, very, very similar, very complex, But so yeah, this idea of struggle, either facing the struggle or not facing the struggle, is something that I wanted to tap into a little bit. And I entitled this segment The Zen of Tension. And that's what kind of just kept coming to me, the Zen of Tension. And I was thinking about V for Vendetta, actually. I don't want to go through the whole movie breakdown. I don't know if I've ever done a breakdown on that film. I don't think I have, but it's old now. I don't do a whole bunch of old movie breakdowns. But as you know, he, for those of you who have seen it, I know it's a pretty popular film by the Wachowski brothers, the same ones who did The Matrix, or who stole The Matrix, rather, I should say. But he wore one of the Grecian theatrical masks. And, you know, often the mask you see one is smiling and one is crying. Okay. And those masks, which I've never done a study on, but perhaps I should, because I'm curious if they originated in Grecian theater, actually. But either way, they represent a very key component of what struggle is. And I was picturing them and then thinking about V for Vendetta, which is really, it was a rite of passage, the whole film of, you know, I can give you the spoiler. The film's like, you know, 15, 20 years old, but, you know, the whole idea of what he did to the woman and, you know, bringing her to that point where she had to make some critical decisions in terms of what she was going to be, how she was going to be, and what she was going to commit herself to was a rite of passage. Okay. But there was a struggle and a tension there. And, you know, yeah, there was a lot to that. So I thought about that and I said, yeah, let's talk about the Zen that one needs to find in the midst of their struggle, because a lot of times that's the problem. You know, you're telling me I need to face the struggle in order to initiate, but some people don't know how to face struggle. And some people don't know how to differentiate the struggles in their life from the crushing pressure of the societal personality that we always kind of feel. And there's a reason we always feel it. It's socially engineered and manufactured for you to always feel pressured. Okay. It's intentional. And when you don't feel pressured, it's socially engineered and manufactured for you to find some pressure. So I wanted to get into that. So let's look at the concept of Zen. And Zen, I think, is a subject I've never covered. Maybe I'll do a full breakdown on what Zen actually is in terms of its cultural and ethnic and traditional beginnings. I don't think I've ever spoken about Zen, interesting enough. But long story short, okay, Zen is basically, even by name definition, it basically just it's a form of meditation. Okay, so we'll keep it simple. Meditation. Now, you know, we have a class on SaduluHouse.com on meditation. So if you want to really understand what meditation is, you can go deeper through that class into that direction. But by name, it's meditation, but it also means to absorb. That's what Zen means, to absorb. So now, of course, what is the correlation between absorption and meditation? How do they, you know, where do you get that from? How does that connect? Because I know a lot of times when we consider meditation, we just think about sitting somewhere and thinking or not thinking, but just kind of sitting somewhere quietly, being still and being quiet. And that is definitely part of it, or it can be a part of it. Stillness is not necessarily a prerequisite for entering into your meditative mind. You don't necessarily have to be still. In fact, some of us, including myself, do better with moving meditation. Stillness is fine. You know, I can work that too, but I enjoy meditation in the woods, moving, hiking. I really like to be barefoot in the woods most of the time when I'm in the woods. So, I like to run in the woods. I know, real childish, right? Grown behind man, running barefoot through the woods. But you do what works for you. And for some reason, when I'm running in the woods barefoot, I don't get tired. So that's when I always take that I'm not built for speed, but in the woods, I'm like the road runner, and I can just go and go and go. I don't get tired, and my feet don't hurt when I run barefoot. So, but it's a form of meditation for me, okay, because my body is kind of, and my mind is preoccupied with avoiding danger, avoiding sharp rocks, tree stumps that may come up, things like that. So while my mind and body is focused on that, my consciousness goes somewhere else. So that works for me. Some of us need a little bit of tension in order for us to find our Zen. Some of us have a little trouble with it, and complete tension. Complete stillness without pressure or crushing force against us. And we're going to get into why that is in a moment. But I'm going to go to just again the idea of Zen and absorption, right? So essentially, there's different ways that you could look at absorption. Now, in older definitions, absorption a lot of times was correlated with the idea of breathing. So like completely taking something in, completely enveloping yourself around a thing would be considered absorption, or even like eating something, ingesting something. And then in many senses, receiving something through your epidermal layers, your skin layers, is considered absorption. Like, you sit in a bath and your skin gets soft because it absorbs, it hydrates from the water, absorbs the water in the bath. That's considered to be a form of absorption. So if we look at Zen or Zen meditation, and we find out, okay, wow, it's connected to, the idea of absorption. Again, what is the connector here? Because essentially, when you're meditating, you're absorbing yourself inside of the real akashic or etheric force that exists outside of your world personality. Okay. The world personality is always based around attention. There's always a push and pull, because the push and pull is required for creation. So there's always some form of friction that goes on within the world personality. That's why when you see in so many global creation stories, there's this rubbing of something, or this stirring of something, scratching of something. There's a friction that occurs which creates heat. Then that thing cools down, organisms grow from the thing that was once hot. But there's always this tension, this back and forth. Now, when you're able to escape the world personality, and when I say your world personality, we have a personality that we utilize here on the planet. All of us, I do, you do, and Onile, or the earth itself, has its own. Well, Onile is the personality. Onile is the spirit that we call the earth, Onile. So that's a personality unto itself. So when we meditate, what we're doing is we're escaping the push and pull, the dynamics of those personalities, while still consciously being awake. Okay. And there's an attitude of tension or an attitude of pressure that comes along with the world personality. So through meditation, we're able to separate ourselves from that particular aspect of our spirit, which is the crushing aspect, and go into a space of freedom. And freedom is our wildness. Okay, because what freedom does is it takes you outside of the normalization that's required to be a part of civilization. Okay, in order to be a part of a civilization, you have to invest in normalization. Okay, that's just, or we call it acclimating, or we might call it civilizing, whatever it is that you call it. In order to do that, that's what we have to do, right? So your meditation allows you to escape that, which we need. We need that for a moment. So that's basically what, Zen, when we talk about Zen meditation. Now, hopefully you have an idea. So we're absorbing ourselves, and we're absorbing the greater, or the wilder or freer consciousness outside of the constrictions of the crushing world attitude. Okay, that's what we're doing when we meditate. At least that's what we're supposed to, that's what you're supposed to be achieving. Now, Zen also means to observe, to watch, to see. So, there's also the process of watching your thoughts and things like that. Like I said, maybe I'll do a full Zen breakdown, but just for the purposes of continuing in this line of thought, I just want to give you that little bit, right? So again, going back to the idea of struggle. Now, a lot of times we can't separate the needed emergent struggles that come forth in our life. We have a bit of trouble separating them from just the bull crap of life, the everyday nonsense. It's very difficult because what happens is through the oppression of the everyday nonsense, we lose the strength and the energy to actually confront the initiation or to confront the struggle. That's purposeful. That was purposely designed that way by the overlords. Okay. So what happens in this society, Western society, especially because Western society is built on conflict, is built on struggle, is built on strife. So within that society, those who come under the leadership of that theocracy, like I said, it's a religion, this culture. So those who come under that theocracy, they seek out the food and the toxicity of strife constantly in their life, even when there is no strife, even when there's things that don't even pertain to them that they care nothing about. What they seek to do is to absorb those things into their lives. So they're absorbing the lower level attitudes into their lives, basically just to have something to riff about. Western culture teaches us that. A person will ask you a question. Let's see. What do you think of Donald Trump? I'm not really into politics. You mean you have no opinion whatsoever? Stuff like that. No, I'm not. No, maybe I don't. I don't care about that right now. I'm working on this over here. I'm doing this over there. I'm doing nothing at all. Because I know I'm talking to spiritual people, so I'm talking to the misfits. I know some of you have had those experiences where times you were sitting somewhere, maybe in a room in the dark, or just sitting, and someone opens it. What are you doing in here? And I'm doing nothing. I'm sitting. That's something. Well, turn the light on. Turn the TV on. No, I'm doing what I want to do. Nothing. I'm sure a lot of you have had that experience because that's a personal, quiet rite of passage of the spiritual or personal rite of passage of the social misfit. It's those quiet, silent times where you're kind of going through your own consciousness, enjoying the silence, soaking it up, and really going into your meditation, because that's what that is. Peace, Georgina. Peace, 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 peace. Yeah, that's a different Georgina. That's the one from the Netherlands. And peace also to you as well, Kumara. But yeah, so a lot of times what we're doing is we're taking on a level of strife. We're taking on a level of pressure. We're taking on a level of tension because that's what our culture dictates. We're creating problems where there are no problems, or we're absorbing problems that are not even related to us. And what this creates is a consistent fatigue. Purposeful. It creates a consistent overwhelming, a consistent stress. So now you don't have the energy or the wherewithal to deal with your actual initiations because you feel like you're supposed to be such a well-rounded individual that you have to take on the entire gambit and the spectrum of world problems and have a solution, have an answer for everything. You see, all purposeful. So again, it creates that consistent fatigue. And I'm gonna show you what happens in this. I'm gonna show you what happens. We're generating and we're cultivating a crushing feeling, or just that bludgeoning, that constant pressure. We're creating that from internally, from inside of ourselves, and also outside of ourselves. I'm gonna give you a quick little understanding of we'll say spiritual protection. You know, a lot of times people who call in or people who get into deeper levels of spirituality, that is the question, or that is what drew them in to alternative spirituality. They felt like somebody was attacking them, or someone was doing something to them that they didn't want done, you know, maybe cursing them or causing blockages in their lives, or causing a stop of money flow, causing impotency, causing barrenness. I mean, I could just go all day, because this is a lot of what I hear on the daily when I'm doing consultations. And what happens in those situations with the idea that someone is doing something to me and now I have to go get some help, there's a delusion there. Okay, there's a delusion. I'm going to show you something. There's never anything that is designed to come at you outside of your universe that you do not have the current capacity to defend yourself from. Nothing. Now, I know let it soak in for a minute, because I know that sounds a little weird, especially because we spend so much time doing protection work and things like that. And we don't know, even when the protection work is done, that we're actually having something triggered and initiated in us. Like, for instance, if someone comes to me for a love spell, I'm not pulling love out of the ethos and throwing it inside of them. I'm activating that force within them to attract that to them, because it's already in there. If you're going to get a protection spell, you're having someone activate your forces of protection inside of you, not necessarily having a mythical elf or hawk come flying through the air to come save and protect you. It doesn't really work that way. So there's nothing that actually exists within the world consciousness or the world reality that we do not have the wherewithal or the defense mechanisms already instilled and implanted inside of our own psyche and being. Okay, it's first thing for you to understand. So what happens is, when you're feeling that constant stress or tension or overwhelmment of a situation or something that's going on, is because you're purposely pulling things inside of your psyche. You're accepting things inside of your psyche that you do not have the brawniness of consciousness to deal with as of yet, because they're now you're accepting unnatural things into your psyche. Here's an example. Let's say you live in I don't know, Houston, Texas, right? And you find out that there's a school somewhere in Sydney, Australia. And within that school, the school children don't have up-to-date school books. And you immediately feel like this sense of indignation about it. You feel outraged about it. You feel like, no, those children need to have books. Well, someone like me would say, what does that have to do with you? What do you mean, what does that have to do with me? You know, now you begin to defend your desire to maintain or to attract something inside of your psyche that you do not have the capacity to actually deal with. Let's say you've never been to Australia. You have no relatives. You have no friends. You know nothing about Sydney, Australia. But all of a sudden you just see something and now you decide to make it a priority. Now you get overwhelmed. And what happens is, as you're trying to pull that tension or that force or that pressure inside of your being, inside of your psyche, there's mechanisms inside of you that are trying to push it out. So now what happens is you develop an internal pressure or an internal tension, and you're also pulling in an external tension. Now this creates a chronic fatigue. You're tired all the time, you see. And then now, again, when your initiation moments emerge in your life, you can't do anything with them. You have no, what we call ashe, or what we call power, or moyo, or chi, energy. You have nothing to deal with them. So you stay in a space of almost suspended animation. Now, one of the ways that we do this, one of the ways, and I'm just going to say welcome again, everybody coming on. I see the lines and everything are popping up a little bit. One of the ways we do this a lot of times is through our ego. I know we're back on ego again, right? You haven't heard that word out of my mouth in a little while, but yeah, we're back on ego again. One of the ways a lot of times we crush ourselves is through the holding on of some of our egoic ideas. Peace, Netaru 13. I know who you are. But we hold on to some of those ideas a lot of times. Yeah, it is, right? She said this YouTube thing is cool. I don't know. I should have been using it previously. It's kind of smooth, but there's no free cheese. So we're going to find out what the trap is. I guess they're probably modeling voices and faces and things like that so they can kill me off and recreate me later. Whatever. But anyway, so again, like I said, a lot of times it's what we're holding on to from an egoic sense that keeps the constant pressure and fatigue. All right. So I'm going to give you some examples here to hopefully clarify it a little bit. A lot of times when we feel a certain persuasion, like a certain force of persuasion from people that are external to us, especially when it's condemning, because there's something in us deep inside that feels that we deserve that level of condemnation. So that's why we war and fight against it so much. Okay. So like, for instance, I'm going to use this example for someone. You're going to know who I'm talking about. Not you all, but when I say it. So let's say if you have family members who say that black men ain't shit. All right. Now I'm talking to you. All right. When I say that, I had a conversation with someone recently who, listened to the shows, and we were talking about that idea that he hears often from family members, women in his family, pretty much like every day. And it's something that he kind of fights against. Well, the reason that you fight against that external pressure of that idea coming into your psyche, because there's somewhere within your psyche that you feel like you deserve that title. You deserve that condemnation. So you're actually accepting and holding on to it. So now it becomes a part of your everyday reality, but there's a dissonance inside of you because there's something inside of you that's saying, nah, that's not right. So now you have pushing from the inside going on, but you're pulling from the outside to try to get it in, which of course, again, creates that chronic fatigue. Now, this is very similar in this same instance too. You see this all the time, especially when we look at some of the, some of the conflicts that we've noticed recently, and some of the teaching communities, I guess we'll say. Sometimes you may come against someone, you say something, it's incorrect. The person, or you do something that's incorrect. The other person proves you to be incorrect. And as opposed to admitting your fault, what you do is you hold your ground and you stand in your position, even though you're wrong. So now what happens in that moment, it creates more tension in the other person. So now they try to push harder to push through your egoic wall of deflection, your egoic wall of denial, your egoic wall of even self-absorption to a degree, while at the same time, because you know within the deepness of your psyche that you're wrong, you have to extend more energy to hold back the truth that you would admit. So that creates a huge tension within. You see, that creates a huge fatigue, not to mention the fact that it also creates demonic forces inside of you. Whole nother conversation. All from you not admitting when you're wrong, from not admitting fault. So the act of actually admitting when you're wrong actually reduces pressure. It reduces pressure. Real simple, right? I know it's easier said than done, as we say in so many things. But so often we're fighting what is trying to come in or what is trying to get out. Okay. And then because of that constant fighting, we're not equipped to handle true situations that come up in life because we're unwilling to sacrifice um, our own egoic individualism. You know, we're not willing to sacrifice that. Now, one who's not willing to sacrifice egoic individualism is one who has resolved themselves to live as a savage life. Okay. To exit the archetype of savagery, there has to be a normalization. Okay. If you think about it for a moment, individualism wrote hard-headed individualism. The reason why it creates savagery, because there has to be some level of unification and normalcy. Peace, Brother Cleveland. There has to be some level of unification and normalcy in order for a civilization to be formed. And if everyone is selfishly dead set on maintaining their own personal liberty and freedom in all areas, then you're actually unable to build a civilization. And I want you to take a look at that and look at the conscious groups that so many are a part of. And the amount of sex, SECTS, sex, the amount of sex that exists. Everyone, I want to do it this way. I want to do it that way. I want to do it that way. I want to do it that way. And a lot of times you have folks who are not even really studying why they want to do the things that the way they want to do them. So it creates, again, that internal pressure that can't be resolved. And if there was a sacrifice of egoic individualism to say, okay, you know what, maybe I'm not doing this thing the right way, then you would actually be able to form true civilizations. You cannot form true civilizations without sacrifice. Civilization requires sacrifice. What has to be sacrificed? The individual. I'll give you a small example. Yesterday, I was speaking to some students and encouraging them to basically be truthful. To, you know, they have certain talents, certain ideas and vision. And I was basically saying, you know, you rob us all of some of the gifts that you have because of the fact that you do not show us your trueness. And, you know, this person was saying, well, you know, I can get on YouTube and kind of teach and do stuff like that. And I said, well, we already got that. We already do that. But you have there's something that this person does that I was like, you have a different thing over there. It's a little different kind of twist over there that would be very interesting. You see? And I shared my own small example of something that I would normally do that I don't do. Because for me, in order to create and father this civilization known as Anu, I have to sacrifice some of my own individual freedom. So, for instance, I don't really use profanity when I'm speaking to you all, but I use profanity. But it's not just about bringing you into the Yuya experience, you know, and well, let me play you some music I like and let me speak the way, you know, I feel comfortable speaking to you and things like that. And even as much as you all think that he just says whatever he feels like saying, not always. No, I say what needs to be said. There's a huge difference. You see, because I have to sacrifice my own egoic individualism in order to create some consistent patterns of normalcy. That's how you build. And everyone is maybe not necessarily required. On some levels, we all have to. Like, you know, we can't form a civilization together if we don't all speak the same language. Like that's an example. You know, so if you want to be a part of something, you have to learn how to utilize the language and maybe even some degree the cultures of the people that you're looking to join with. Okay. And for those who don't do that or they refuse to do that, right, what they begin to do is they begin to generate this lifestyle of perpetual criticism. Okay, so so you have to kind of look at the opposite to a degree. What is the opposite of one who's a civilization builder? Well, one who's a civilization destroyer or deconstructor. Now, how do you deconstruct a civilization? Through heavy, unhealthy criticism of people. You know, nobody wants to be around you if you're constantly tearing them down. You see, if you're constantly tearing them down, you can't build anything with them. And those who cannot perceive tearing down or distinguish being torn down from being built up can't be a part of your civilization anyway. Okay, that's for those of you who are listening and saying, "Well, Chief, you gave me some hard criticisms." That's different. It's not tearing down. And if you're tearing down something, you may have to tear something down that needs to be torn down. But I'm speaking about those who kick the legs from under anyone who would strive to participate in some of the privileges and freedoms that they're currently experiencing. That is the primary characteristic of one who's a civilization deconstructor. So let's say if I drive a black pickup truck, let's just say, and a black pickup truck is a beautiful thing to have because there's so many things you could do with it. You could haul junk, you can, collect copper and things like that, and scrap metal and do moving jobs and all these different things. And now you can actually form a business off of just having a pickup truck. And someone else comes along and says, let's say Brother Dietrich or whomever, and says, "Yeah, I want to get a truck too, man. I want to get a truck. I see what you're doing over there. I like that, man. I like to get a pickup truck." I said, "Man, you can't drive. You crash every car you have, man. And you don't have a strong back like me, man. You can't pick these refrigerators and stuff up into this." I start tearing down the prospects of him being able to share and partake in the privileges and wealth. And when I say wealth, I'm not just speaking about currency, but the wealth of what I actually am enjoying at the time. Okay, that destroys civilizations. Now, this is not a pro-polygyny talk. All right, I want to make that clear. I just want to make an example. There's a book by Patricia Dixon, Dr. Patricia Dixon. We want for our sisters what we want for ourselves. There's two of them, actually. There's two versions of it. That's a great example of civilization building. Just even in title. I mean, they're great books, but just even in title. I want for you what I want for myself. And obviously I'm not speaking about the malady of my life, but the good things. If it is, I have a good husband and a family and a stable base and peace, I want you to have that too. That's how you build civilizations. That's why I told you all before that look for kindness in your mate, because there's a lot that comes with the package of kindness. But when you have someone who is purposely and intentionally trying to deconstruct your opportunities to stand on equal footing with them, or even surpass them, even go further than where they're at, then you're looking at someone who's a societal or a civilization deconstructor. Okay. Now, there's a lot of reasons why people do this. And one of the primary, we can say they're just a hater. You're just a hater. Yeah, you say they're a hater. There's haterism, but there's a reason for this. A lot of times, not all the times, it's a result of confusion, of internal confusion. There are people who live to kind of tear you down, and who refuse to allow you to have the privileges that they do because of the tension that they feel. And sometimes the tension that they feel is based upon their inability to reconcile what the world is. Okay, they can't reconcile how the world moves and what the world is. They can't resolve it. So what they tend to do, as confused people, because they can't really put the universe in order. Because remember, when we speak about the universe, primarily we're speaking about a feminine construct when we're talking about the universe. All right. Like I tell you guys a lot of times, 90% of this stuff is feminine. So it requires to be put in order if it's going to be utilized on the earthly plane. Okay, so that's why we take natural resources and we find ways to harness them. Like you take the wildness and the fluidity of water, and you create yourself, a waterfall, and you can generate electricity. You can create a hydro generator with that, right? So we're kind of learning how to put some of the liberated elements and components of the universe into a certain order, so that way we can use them for our earthly good. And of course, there's a balance in that as well. But there are people who don't know how to do that. They haven't figured it out. So what happens is, because they walk in this perpetual confusion, they take on the mindset that everyone else is as confused as they are. So it's simple, to simplify it, they impose their confusion onto everyone else because they're unable to put the universe in order. Okay. Now, once you begin to superimpose your confusion onto everyone else, that's one of the reasons why people get trapped in religion and you can't talk to them, because they say, well, listen, man, like if simple one, let's say, for instance, you say, well, listen, if Adam and Eve were the first people on the planet, though the Bible doesn't say that, by the way, but let's just say if Adam and Eve were the first people and Cain and Abel were their first children, then who was Cain's wife that he went off into the land of Nod to go live with? Nod means the north. Who was that? Well, or here's a classic one. If if God knew they were going to eat the apple, why did he put the tree in the garden to begin with? Right. Now, all of that statement is wrong, but it's just a common phrase that people use because it wasn't an apple anyway. But just you understand, for the purpose of the discussion. So then the response would be like, listen, there's some things that are mysteries that God has that you and I can never understand. You got to have faith. Then you'll have the person will say, well, wait a minute, hold on, player. I've actually studied some of this stuff. I do understand some of it. I actually do have some of this information. The moment you say that, they close off their psyche from the reception of any of that information, because they're saying within their own psyche, you don't know what you're talking about, man. I'm confused about this. So if I'm confused about this, because my worldview is limited to myself, because of the constant pressure that I keep on myself, constantly got things pushing from the outside, constantly got things I'm pulling or pushing from the inside, my world becomes very small. So you must also be feeling the same tension that I'm feeling. And sometimes, even if you're not feeling that tension, they'll superimpose the tension onto you. You might see somebody, sometimes I've done it, sometimes you haven't seen someone watch, say, hey, how you doing, man? They may say, oh man, I'm all right, man, I'm maintaining. And they may say, how you doing? Oh, I'm cool. Yeah, man. And then they'll say, yeah, we gotta hang in there, man. It gets rough. I just said I'm cool. What are you talking about, man? I'm good. Things are fine. We find that often, a lot of times, even in our conscious collectives, we become a little guilty about saying that we're okay. How could you be okay when a lot of our people, our people aren't free? If one of us isn't free, ain't none of us free. We get into that whole thing. And we don't understand that is the implication and the coercion of Western social engineering and architecture, that you always have to be at strife. You always have to be in tension about something or someone or a situation at all times. That's why this place is always at war. They're always fighting somebody. They talk about, it's the most peaceful nation. Yeah, because you fight everywhere else. When have you not had troops deployed? Since the commencement of this place, it's been fighting. And when they couldn't fight people outside, they decided to fight each other. The Civil War. Civil? Really? You see? So that constant tension and stress is a construct of Western culture. So again, like I said, when you're speaking to people like that, they use that browbeating as a way to kind of confirm to themselves that they can't resolve the universe, and neither can you. But see, the thing is, what they're doing is they're projecting that negative image or that destructive or harmful image that they have of life, what they're doing is projecting to you, onto you, the current war that exists inside of their own psyche. Because what they're doing when a fault or a confusion rises up inside of them internally, they're using browbeating as a supposed form of submission, and in order to kind of beat their internal demons into submission. And you can't do that. It doesn't work like that. You don't confront your subconscious maladies or your subconscious dysfunction with force. You see, it's like trying to beat a bowl of coon. The most Obaxala was able to do was to get a chain and tie him to the bottom of the ocean. The most. But what does the chain represent? Intellect. So we have to rationally resolve our emotional dysfunction or our emotional turmoil. We can't just stand in front of it with a brick wall and expect, browbeat it and say, man, you shouldn't even feel like that. You shouldn't be going through that, and expect it to subdue. It doesn't work that way. You see? So now what happens when you have a person who's moving through the world like that, they become agitated. And agitation becomes the norm for them because of the constant pressure. So then constant pressure becomes the norm. Agitation becomes the norm. And even when there are situations where they don't need to be agitated about, they have to pretend now to be concerned about, thank you, Jim. I heard you just told me my voice is breaking up on YouTube. Okay, so let's see here. Because I've been playing with just trying to figure out how to get this right. Somebody just let me know when I clear up. Hopefully if I clear up. Someone just let me know. Okay, I got another one breaking up. All right. Hold on one second. Yeah. Let me know. Did I clear up? My voice cleared up. If I cleared up, please someone let me. I must not have cleared up because no one's confirmed that I have cleared up. All right, so give me one moment. All right, I'm gonna reset something here. It must be breaking up bad because I'm not getting any answers right now. You're doing so well too. It's so good. Okay, it's still choppy. Okay, just give me a moment. Play something and I'm gonna come on back.
Life is hard. There's a reason you're here. You have a purpose. I know you've been scarred. Broken to pieces, but you're not worthless. You got an iceberg heart. Pain is hurting. Careless, but working.
Okay. Please all just let me know if I have cleared up as of yet. Hopefully I have. Again, I apologize for the it sounds much better. Thanks. All right. Thank you, Miss Stone. Thank you, Miss Backboard. Hopefully I pronounced that correct. Thank you. All right, I just had to play around with something and reset something. Yeah. Thank you, Sister Sequoia. All right. I don't know where it started chopping up, so I'm not sure where yeah, thank you, sis. I'm not sure where you left me at. But what I was speaking about is, again, the mindset that comes when you have a person who is, thank you, Miss Stone. You have a person who is really focused on, again, they now are, because they have this constant agitation, and that agitation and that pressure becomes the norm. What happens then after that is they have to then begin to pretend that there's problems in there's pressure where it doesn't even exist. That becomes the pretension. I'm gonna give you a good example. Matter of fact, just in what I just did, what I just played, right? I just played a little clip of a song that I did, what year are we in? 2017? 2011, I think. 10, 11, old song. And I never finished it, actually, because I did the music and everything, and I wrote the lyrics and stuff, and I was like, because I don't really like happy songs. I like dark songs. I like the wrong kind of music. Let me put it that way. I like music that I really shouldn't be listening to. Real disrespectful, debaucherous, horrible music, but it gives you, it keeps my edge on. I guess too, because I spend so much time in my professional life, kind of disguising the barbarian within. Certain things give me an opportunity to go a different way. So when I actually did that song, I just left it because I was like, I don't want to do no freaking happy song. But it's funny because when we were covering this topic recently, I saw it and I said, maybe I'll put this as the background sound, the track and stuff as I'm talking and whatnot. And I pulled it up. Let me see. Going back last strong. So like last Wednesday when I first did the show on Struggle, I was gonna play it. Right. So that was like Monday or Wednesday, and never played it because I didn't want to hear it. I was like, I don't feel like listening to that song. So I actually had it up on the side all this time and never played it because I didn't feel like the happy thing. That's an example of what I'm talking about. Why can't I just embrace the happy? Why does it have to be constant tension and strife? So we're going to play a couple of seconds of it.
So just smile again. If the problem's over, baby, smile again. Smile once again. I know life is hard. There's a reason you're here. You have a purpose. I know you've been scarred. Broken to pieces. But you're not worthless. You got an iceberg heart. Pain is hurting. Careless, we're working. You were so innocent. Remember when you can smile once again. Just smile, just smile. The sun will take the rain away. Smile, smile. Smile, just smile. The sun will take the rain away. Smile, just smile, smile. Yeah, yeah. Look, we need a town.
All right. Okay. Enough of that. But yeah. And the reason I played that too, because I'm like, that might have been the energy of that song saying, look here, player. You didn't have me sitting back here for over 7 days. You didn't play me because you want to be a sour puss. So now I'm going to mess up the audio on your show. So that's why I played it too, kind of like an offering to the happy, to the gods of happy, the happy gods. But again, going back to what we're speaking about in terms of that personality. And, let me give you the number real quick. Anybody wants to call in, speak whatever. 515-605-9862. Okay, 515-605-9862. 888-888-6262, and you just hit the number 1, right? No pressure. Speaking about pressure, right? No pressure. It's all good. We're cool. But oh, thank you, Brother Cleveland. Yeah, I'm glad you're liking it. The whole live thing. It forces me to have to really, I guess in some ways slow up my day, because doing the shows, it takes a lot out of my time, because my days are very, very, very hectic, but it forces me to actually sit down. So this is kind of like my break in a way, so but thank you. I'm glad you're valuing it. But yeah, so again, what happens in that mode, in that mind state, we have to now start pretending that we're concerned about all of the troubles in the world. Now, here's the impossible aspect of that. Our psyches and our consciousness are not equipped to actually handle all of the troubles of the world. So what happens is we tend to make this mistake. And I'm gonna give you this little warning when it comes to owning. I gotta stop world hunger and bring world peace and all that. You never want to bring more into your psyche than you can extend outside of your psyche. You never want to bring more into your inner verse than your intellect can actually control. Okay. Now there's a fine balance there as well, because you don't want to, you want to still be able to let just enough in so that you're not running from that oh yeah energy, or depriving yourself of opportunities to grow and evolve. Like sometimes I may say something to you all and you say, that's not what I heard before, like it's new information. But my work and my challenge is not to inundate you. Even right now, as I'm speaking, I'm pausing and no, don't go down there. Don't go light, lighten up, Yuya. I have this internal conversation happen. Don't give him too much. Slow it up. Give him a little side note real quick to give him a breather, and then go back to the subject. So you don't want to expel too much into your psyche, or an individual psyche, than what their actual intellect can control. But at the same time, you don't want to deprive yourself of opportunities to grow. So there's a careful balancing that you have to govern. That's what you're responsible for now. No one can really do that for you. But there's a careful balance that you have to govern, and meditation, is what helps you to do that. It helps you to figure out how much to take in and how much to say, okay, no, I don't need all that right now. Like if somebody said, hey, Chief, such and such is going on, and I don't know. I'm always trying to pick these different places, and I'm the worst person for this because I'm horrible with maps. Uruguay, in Uruguay, they're having a problem with the roofs of the houses. They're using tin, but they should be using aluminum instead of the zinc, because the zinc, it starts to rust after a while, and everybody got holes in their roofs. But if they use the aluminum, it would last longer. We need to do something about the aluminum roofs, in Uruguay. Not only do I not care, I don't care, but not only do I not care, I currently do not have the intellectual capacity to take that in and govern all of the other things that are going on in my life right now as well. So the pretension or the projection of false concern is something that we begin to create as a culture in a society. That's why, newscasters wear eyeliner. Male newscasters I'm speaking about wear eyeliner to make themselves look more sincere, to make themselves look more concerned, because that idea of concern, or that little frown that people give when they furrow their brows and they look at you and that's too bad, look at that, yeah, that whole attitude, it comes from that Western ideology that we have to pretend to be concerned about everything. Some things we don't care about. Like I spoke about that when Trayvon Martin was killed. I said, you don't all care about that. You feel like you have to care about it though. That's our children, man. They're shooting our children down in the streets. Okay, what have you done in terms of adjustment since then? Like, how have you adjusted your lifestyle and the way you've raised children, or who you've raised children with, and so forth and so on, as a result of what occurred? We're very afraid to say, yeah, man, it's a tragedy. I'm sorry for the boy's mother, but I don't really care that much. Right now, I'm 2 months behind in my rent. They about to give me this eviction letter. So I'm sorry, but I don't have room in my psyche for anything else right now. We're afraid to say that because this is how the society has programmed us. And the reason it does that is to keep you under constant fatigue so you don't have the energy to address your rite of passage experiences. Notice you didn't feel that same way when you were a child. You were willing and able to take on the challenges of life. And then as you got older, you started to be infused with the idea of all these things that you should be concerned about, which created a consistent agitation. And that's why, Kim speaks about that often, how a lot of times people compare themselves to others in terms of their spiritual growth and development. And they're saying like, well, so-and-so has it. Why don't I have it? Or so-and-so figured it out. And like I always tell y'all, be careful with that because people lie. I know what everybody's doing. I may not say it. I'm not trying to embarrass people on the line and stuff, or get on their YouTube channels and say, just yesterday you told me you were afraid of ghosts. Now today you over here doing rituals and spells for clients. Are you serious? Like, I'm not going to do that. And I mean, I literally have situations like that. Babalao is the father of the secret. You got to keep your mouth shut. You got to keep the secret. It'll play out on its own. But my point being, and like what she says, is a lot of times we're making the comparisons with other people, and then that creates an agitation where we now become those browbeating, very destructive people to be around, because we want to kick the legs underneath anyone who seems like they may be going beyond us. It's the whole crab in the barrel analogy or mentality. And what happens is, it's because, like sometimes, when you're a youth and you're at an event, or like Sister Michelle said, the guy took her to an all-you-can-eat bar, and, we pile our plates up and we can't finish our food. And there's a phrase where we say, yeah, what was it? Yeah, your eyes are bigger than your stomach, or something like that. It's something to that effect, right? Basically saying, you saw all of this and, you got greedy, but your stomach can't handle all of that. That's the same way our psychic growth works. Sometimes we forget that the primary purpose of our eyes is experience. We're supposed to use them for experience, not for ingestion and intake, to take everything into our psyche. Okay? We can only control the amount of things outside of us that our psyche can handle. So we have to monitor what we permit to come inside of our consciousness. And a lot of times we use our eyes to bring everything in. And that's the value and the beauty of meditation, because what then occurs is a closed eye experience. And when we close our eyes, we remind ourselves to not let more into our consciousness than we can actually administer. And what that means is this. Again, it's reciprocity. I'm not going to take in more from you than I can actually give to you. And the you doesn't have to be a natural individual. The you can be just the world. The you can be your environment. The you can be nature. The you can be the woods. Right? The you can be the woods. That's why when we speak a lot of times about doing spiritual ritual, we say, if you're going to go do ritual, bring something. Like if you're going to take herbs, if you're going to pick herbs or pick flowers or whatever those things are, then what you should also do at the same time is give an apple. I usually like to bring fruit, because I know it can be, the wildlife there can eat it, and then the seeds can break down, and, so it's a gift that keeps on giving, But whatever it is that you decide to give, the idea there again is that I'm not going to bring in more than I can administer. Now, when you look at that within our initiations, how many of you go through spiritual rituals? Even if it's an ibori, or we also call a rogation, even if it's a head washing, or you receive alekes, or you receive pots, or you receive fetishes, or ides, and you're receiving all of these different things that your psyche doesn't have the ability to administer. Okay. And then what that creates is that constant tension, because you always have in the back of your mind that, oh man, I need to do something with that. It's kind of like I was speaking one time recently, and I said, yeah, sometimes we hoard and we don't even realize it. Like I own a lot of vehicles, but one of the vehicles I have literally has been up on it's so country, but it's been up on cinder block since 2008. Right. And I could fix it. I actually started the timing belt went. It's an SUV. The timing belt went, and I said, okay, I'll change the timing belt myself. And I'm gonna show you what happened. We talk about the being overwhelmed. Took everything apart, right? Got the timing belt right in front of my face. Now, for you people listening, I'm not gonna assume that the women don't know how involved the timing belt is, but I guess for some of you fellas, you probably, if you work on cars, you understand how involved that job is, to get to your timing belt. So timing belt is right in front of me. And when I was taking it apart, I didn't have time. I was in the middle of doing a bunch of different other things. So I said, you know what? I'm going to commit myself to at least 20 minutes a day, 25 minutes a day. I'm going to go into my garage and I'm going to slowly take the truck apart, which I did. And once I took it apart, timing belts are cheap. The hard part is getting to it. But I wanted to, make it a little. It was supposed to be a little meditation project. That's why I did it. Like, oh, this would give me an opportunity to get away from my work and da da da. But what happened was, I just got even busier. Never put it back together. Now, this was in 2008, and my youth straightened up. What they call straighten up, because they wanted to properly set up. I got a bunch of heavy bags and fight equipment and pull-up bars and stuff like that. So they wanted to set up their space so they can, get their barbarian on. And the parts that I had laying around, they just kind of all put in a pile. But you can't do that. Anybody who knows, you've worked on something. So now all the screws, the bolts, I don't know what goes back where. So it's been sitting, right? So now, I can still get rid of the truck because it's a like kind of a high demand SUV. I could sell it as is. Like, yo, look, the engine is half apart, buy as is. But I keep saying, nah, I'm gonna go finish it because I feel kind of bad. I started it, didn't finish. I'm gonna go finish it, and I'm just basically gonna have to rebuild everything now because I don't know where. Everything is scattered now. I think some of the parts even got thrown out. Critical parts. So now there's a constant pressure that I feel every single day. Now we're going back from 2008, almost 10 years. Every single day, because I have allowed this process into my consciousness of doing the timing belt and the water pumps, come things on his trunk, but I haven't actually had the mental capacity to administer the actual responsibility of it, because I've been just busy with our new stuff. Around 2008, by the way, is when I had my physical temple. So that's part of this. That's when I was running back and forth, between Harlem and New Jersey and things like that. So, and things have just been moving since then. So I'm not going to go and do the timing chain. I know that it's not going to get done. So what I have to do is now remove, literally it's to the point now, I'm gonna tell you something funny. This year, one of my youth will be old enough to drive it, which is so crazy because we used to joke about that. Like, when I had it before, like, one day, Bobby, you gonna give me this truck? No, I ain't giving you shit. Get out of here. Get out the seat, you know? Ain't you getting this truck. Now he'll be old enough to drive it. How pathetic is that? So, and he still ain't getting it just because I said so. So the thing is, a lot of times we bring things into our consciousness and our psyche that we don't have the wherewithal to actually administer and govern. And it creates a constant agitation and tension, even on a small level, because it sits within the subconscious. And you can't defeat it by force, by saying, I'll get to it later. Leave me alone about that. I want to hear about that. It doesn't work that way, because that creates a larger pressure from the outside. It comes in from the outside now, you know. Yeah, Georgina just said, I so recognize the part of the 2008 car. It happened to me with my vintage sewing machines. 3 of them I decided to fix. Now, you know what? I also have a vintage sewing machine. So that's a good question. That's a good statement that you said. Yeah, you just reminded me. I have a vintage sewing machine as well that I got from one of my elders, that I need to probably just give to somebody, because I'm not going to use it. And the sisters, they have brand new sewing machines. They don't want to use it. You know what I mean? So yeah. Yes, like I said, sometimes you realize later, it takes a while though, that you're actually a hoarder. And I might be a little bit of a hoarder. But I have more things than you could imagine, things that seem totally unrelated to what I do. I have a whole silk screening machine. At one point, I was going to, when I had the temple before and I had Sons of Source and Co. for my rites of passage, I was going to teach the youth how to silk screen so that they could start their own businesses and they could sell shirts. This is back in 2002, 2001. I got the whole machine in my garage. How many times did I use it? 0. The chemicals are all dried up now and everything. Allowing too much into the psyche. We call it spreading yourself thin, but it's also you allow so much into the psyche that now you can't really you can't administering. Now that's where the power and the gift of meditation comes in, because it allows you to do one thing. Close your eyes. That's what it allows you to do. Because you remember, when you're opening up your eyes, you're taking in all of this content, all of this data, and you're feeling like, I need to process all these things that I take in. And a simple thing that meditation does, because usually you close your eyes. You close your eyes and you say, okay, I'm not going to process any of that stuff. So like, if I had one of my elders used to always joke about this. Say, one day I'm going to come up there with a tow truck when you ain't even there, and I'm just going to take that truck out of there. He used to always say that to me. Next time you go to Africa, next time you out the country over there in them bushes, I'm going to go over there with a tow truck and take that thing up out of there, man. That's going to be that. That was his constant threat. And there was a part of me inside where I was like, I kind of hope he does that. I hope he does what I don't have the heart to do. So again, it's that idea, when you get an opportunity to close your eyes, you give yourself that relief. Very similar to, like I said, with the Grecian mask. Another form of being able to release that pressure, or again, that, like I said, the constant bludgeoning that we feel from this society, because it creates that consistent crushing, that consistent physical force, and that squeezing, that squeezing and that strain that we feel at all times. When we get to release it, 2 ways, real easy. And this is the science of the Grecian. I said we'll get into it later. When we're laughing or when we're crying. Crying and laughing reduces the thrust and the heaviness of the world attitude and personality. Those 2, and it allows you a moment to sacrifice the individualism, sacrifice the ego, and it makes you more vulnerable or more open to moving the duress out of your life, moving the influence and the persuasion, again, of the world personality out of your life. And like I said, a lot of times it comes from external sources, from people who have been unable to order the universe. So now they assume you can't order the universe because I don't know God's mysteries, neither do you. Because I don't know what morning means. Why you say good dawning? Because of the nah, come on, man. I mean, it's just good morning. It's fine. That's just what people say. You hear that a lot, right? When you start getting into different things, learning different things, people will tell you that, well, this is just what we do in our society. It doesn't mean anything. Because you're not that deep, don't assume that others are not that deep. And I hear that all the time. It was one time on the internet when I used to have a Facebook. I had a personal Facebook account. I was in a group. All of my time in groups was pretty much short lived because it was a waste of time. I'm cool with pulling out of an investment. But I remember one time someone was on there speaking about birth certificates or something. And I said, well, I explained some of the science behind the birth certificate and the marriage certificate. In fact, I think that's what we were speaking about. And I was just sharing some of the dangers of it and what a marriage and a birth certificate actually is legally. And the individual said, well, yeah, I see you citing laws and stuff that were made a long time ago, but nowadays, those things don't mean that anymore because we all have an understanding of what a birth certificate is or a marriage certificate. Now, I don't know if you all can hear that. Like if you can hear how stupid that statement was. But I don't know if you caught it. So I just said, well, listen, okay, I understand because I'm not going to get back. If you say something that dumb to me, there's really not much for me to say afterwards because anything I say is not really going to hit. So I just said, all right, well, cool. Well, if anyone's interested in learning about the old meaning of a birth certificate or the old meaning of a marriage certificate, just inbox me. And it's because this person sent like a long letter, like they were adamant. Like, a lot of times we get caught up in trying to learn what the origin of certain things are, but you got to understand that societies grow. And as we change that, we take on different meanings for certain things. See, that's the trap of stupidity. You thinking it takes on a different meaning, but the people who are architecting your society are maintaining the integrity of where they began from. And they don't teach you the origins. They don't teach you where they began from. So when they say something like good morning, they say, oh, it's just a greeting. No, there's a lot of different greetings. Why are we using that one? Why are we using specific ones? Why are we adamant within our society about saying specific things? Because and now the society begins to regenerate that level of ignorance because they have not figured out how to order the world. So they assume that their confusion is your confusion and they superimpose it. And now that creates more pressure for themselves because what do? When they try to throw their confusion at you, you push it back onto them. Now they have double the pressure than what they sent out. Now, this all happens on a subtle, vital, energetic level, but it's felt. It's the reason why we get up every day. We just don't feel well. We don't feel happy. We don't feel at peace. Most importantly, we don't feel free when we get up every day because we have the constant pressure coming from inside and coming from outside very often because we're holding on to something that is no longer truthful, but we don't want to admit the fault in it. So now that dissonance creates waves and clashes that come back at us. And the universe says, no, I don't want that. You keep that. So now we got to fight with the universe is throwing back. We call that karma, by the way. Now we have to fight. We're fighting our own karma a lot of times because we don't want to let go of the things that are no longer working because we haven't figured out how to put it in proper order. And most of this comes from this delusional idea that we're supposed to be able to have all of the answers to mate and meet with all of the dilemmas that come up in the world consciousness and in the world attitude. And no one has that. No one has the ability to face everything, to touch everything and say, okay, I got that. I know what that is. I know what that is. Like I got a perfectly fine paint job is pristine on that truck. Okay, perfectly good truck in my garage. I can't figure out how to put it back together. And like the people who know, like, you know, my male comrades, it's been like the running joke because I've been working on vehicles since I was young. And like, come on, man, how you gonna put that timing belt back? And I mean, I could, but I don't have the mental fortitude to sit down and say, okay, let me go on eBay and start ordering the hoses and the belts. And because of course everything is dried out now. Or I got to replace all the belts and the hoses and the screws, all the bolts. And I'm going to have to get the shop manual and see the exact size of the bolts that we use here, the exact size. I don't really have it because I'm trying to organize retreats, and I have an orphanage that I have to take care of, and land deals that I'm doing. And when we go down the list, I'm not going to go down the list publicly, but a lot that I knew sustains. I don't have the mental capacity to do that right now, no matter how humiliating or embarrassing it is within that certain circle. But me releasing that, because I promised myself actually this summer I'm getting rid of it. So that's what I'm saying, releasing it. In fact, I called someone, this is funny, actually yesterday. A friend of mine, he's like a traveling mechanic. I was like, yo, come in, man, do this truck for me. Just whatever it costs, just do it. I'll pay you. You know, and he's like, about time. You know. So what I'm saying is that we start to get into that space where we can let go of the things that we're truly not concerned about, that we feel pressured to feel like we're supposed to be concerned about. You know, a lot of us are still, we're in consciousness. We're supporting debates about the Bible versus indigenous thought and ideation. Why are we still holding on to that? That doesn't make sense. You see? But now that creates an internal pressure of what we need to prove, because we have such a problem with being right for the sake of being right. There's always a selfish agenda a lot of times when it comes to us in this society, in terms of even when we're learning and even when we're trying to get to a certain place, it's very selfish. Like, can you just be right and just to be right? Can you not try to be right because you want to prove someone wrong, or because you want to prove an idea wrong, or because you want to be better than someone else, or because you want to redeem a deficiency and a deprivation that you've held inside of yourself? Can you be right just to be right? This is why someone can tell me that, nah, birth certificate don't mean all that. And I can say, all right, well, you know, for those who want to know, here, you know, if not, don't worry about it. I know I'm right, but I don't need to be right to embarrass, or at that time, I didn't need to be right to embarrass him. I didn't need to be right for everyone to applaud me and say, oh man, that brother's deep, man. Wow, he broke down the whole stock exchange piece and a third party husband, biological husband, and da-da-da, and you know, how the state is not an organic being, so how could the state actually be I don't need all that. I know I'm right, I'm good. I can let that go. Let's move on to something else. Something a little bit more relevant that applies to my world reality, that I actually have the capacity to put in order. Because I can't put your insanity in order. If I say something like that and then you come back with an insane response like that, which is just a colonialistic response. That's basically what it is, because you're functioning with the presumption that we safe. We safe now. Yeah, they did all of that before, but we're in a post-racial America. There's no more conspiracies. Nah, you good. You're functioning with that presumption. And I know the backstory. Again, I know the process and the sequence that leads a person up to thinking that way. I don't have the capacity to deal with that at certain times. You know, sometimes we spend a little bit too much time and energy trying to reorder insanity. And remember, when we speak about the feminine aspect and the feminine principle, we're not speaking about insanity. We're speaking about chaos. It's different. We're not speaking about crazy. We're speaking about chaos. It's different. We're not speaking about confusion. We're speaking about chaos. It's different. All right. Always understand that, because a lot of times, sometimes we fall back on some of those knowings and we superimpose our sickness onto them, and they're not really related. And if you're a person who doesn't really understand words or takes the time to understand the words that come out of your mouth or come out of other people's mouths, you'll just smash it all together. And some of the stuff doesn't belong together. Like we say, well, these sisters are crazy nowadays, man, but that's how they're supposed to be, because the feminine energy is chaos. No, that's different. You're saying two different things, and you're trying to justify a dysfunction by cosmic reality. Most likely to remove yourself from the seat of responsibility, because usually when we accept something from a dysfunction from outside of ourselves, is because in some way, on a karmic and psychic level, we feel that we deserve to have to interact with that dysfunction. So like when you're home and you tell your parents, hey, my new name is Moon, or my new name is River, or a hawk, or eagle, or Haru, or this, whatever it is. And they say, no, your name is Toby. And you allow that. And that creates a pressure inside where now you're angry about it. Is because inside you still think you're Toby. See, that's the truth of it. And that becomes a very difficult conversation, even in terms of like when I'm sometimes doing consultations with people. It becomes, it's a very tricky, it's a very slippery slope. When someone is speaking about their victimization, it becomes very tricky when you need to say to them, you're victimizing yourself. And that's why when the opportunity for external victimization comes along, you attach yourself to it. That's a tricky one. I mean, you might get a knife pulled on you with that type of conversation. A lot of people have trouble with. So you trying to tell me I did this to myself? It gets tricky. You see, but that's the truth of it. So like, if I was sitting on this line saying, man, don't be calling here talking about when is the 14 Keys class going to come out, and I thought you was doing another new spiritual training phase for the children, and don't be calling me about that. I got a lot on my plate. Well, Chief, you have a lot on your plate because you think you don't deserve to not have a lot on your plate. You think you don't deserve rest. So that's your fault. Don't you have a truck that you've had in your garage since for what, 9 years now that hasn't moved? And didn't you teach us that creates external pressure? So you've already just admitted some of the pressure that exists in your life. So that's probably why you didn't do the 14 Keys class, because of the truck in the garage. And that's the only thing you admitted. What else you got? What about the sewing machine? You going to sew some shirts? What about the silk screening kit, Chief? You see what I'm saying? Now, I'd have to, in that moment, this is when we speak about the sacrifice of individualism. In that moment, I'd have to say, you know what? Yeah, you're right. That's just 3 things. There's more, but ain't none of y'all business. That's just 3 things, right? Those 3 things are creating a small groundswell of pressure. Every time I see them, what am I going to do with this sewing machine? I got to get this big truck in the middle of the doggone town. I got to figure out what I'm going to do with this. What was the 3rd thing? The silk screen. Oh, man, I got this. I ain't going to be sitting out here pressing on doggone t-shirt, and I don't have time to teach the youth how to do it. I got to figure out somebody to give this to or whatever. A small groundswell of pressure that I've created for myself. And now it's going to transcend and it's going to go on to other areas. Yeah, Georgina said, what about my stacks of fabric? I got stacks of fabric, Georgina. Yeah, exactly. What about your stacks of fabric? streams of pressure. Now, there's a whole lifestyle created around this, called minimalism, where you only use and keep what you actually need. And I could dig it. When I'm in certain environments, I do function that way. When I'm back home, that's how I am. My home is very bare back home. I got my motorcycle, and that's it. I don't have 5 million cars on my land, but in that environment, you feel more fulfilled. When you breathe in, you get full. It's like going to the Caribbean. You're not hungry all the time. You ain't always hungry and sad and horny, because there's so many nutrients in the actual environment. There's so many things feeding you. And after a while, you can let go of the tension. You actually can feel like, you know what? Especially when you're across the water, whatever's going on back home, which I know is crazy, I just don't care right now. Right now, I'm just focused on this. It could be trying to throw a rock up into a tree to get a coconut down because you're thirsty. That's all I care about right now. It could be weaving some palm leaves to make a basket, or splitting some bamboo because you need to shore up your fence. And right now, that's all I'm thinking about. They killed somebody else in the street. Yeah, well, I'll deal with it when I get back. Now, what happens is you begin to release that pressure. And you notice in environments like that, in your quiet times, you will cry late at night. And you're quicker to laugh and smile during the day. Constantly blowing off the steam and the pressure. Oh, Sequoia, you said you'll take the fabric off our hands. I ain't giving you this fabric, man. I got some nice fabric. I ain't giving that to you. I'm gonna figure out something. You see what we do? See that? Look at the ego just flaring. No, that's my fabric. Yeah. But Georgina probably give you her fabric. So you don't need mine. Yeah, I got some expensive fabric from the continent. I got a lot of it too. I ain't gonna sell nothing. It'll probably be a part of my will. I'll have it so doggone long. I ain't doing nothing with it. But yeah, so it's that laughter and that crying that releases that pressure and releases that tension that allows you now the energy and the fortitude that you would need to. Yeah, look, see, Georgina won't let go of her fabric either. You see the sickness? You see us? But it's that gives you the fortitude to now deal with the rite of passage experiences. It gives you the space, the mental space, the mental openness. That's the Olokun. Olokun not only deals with your subconscious, but remember, Olokun is synonymous with the idea of space. When you look at the ocean, what are you seeing? Vast amounts of space, vast amounts of emptiness, which now allow you the fortitude so that when those emotions emerge from the depths of your psyche, you now have the power, the strength, and the fortitude to deal with them responsibly. But as long as you're walking in a state of chronic fatigue, you begin to develop a negative image of life. Once you develop a negative image of life, this goes back to the earlier show. You see how it all ties in. Any bump in the road is a disaster. Oh man, I ain't got the strength for this right now. I don't blah, 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 blah. You see, you take on that idea. You see, and you can't get through your rite of passage. You have even more trouble trying to resolve the universe. And what happens is you begin to browbeat yourself internally. Yeah, I was supposed to get initiated. Yeah, I was supposed to go to survival school. Yeah, I was supposed to, get with Dr. Africa or Dr. U and do my holistic training. All these different moments of rites of passage you didn't have energy for, and you start to browbeat yourself because someone has told you that your psyche is supposed to have the capacity to handle all of the world's external problems. And the truth is, you can handle everything that's external to you that comes into the periphery of your life. That's the way that the quantum field was designed. The quantum field was designed in a way so that whatever comes into your path, you pull into your path. And if it's pulled into your path, somewhere down in you, there's a force that attracted it. Now, that force that attracted has also the power and the ability to neutralize it at the same time. That's the way this thing works. But if you have things that are flying past you and you decide to pull it into your psyche, you decide to draw it into your consciousness without the capacity of intellect to handle it, that's a different deal. Now you become overwhelmed. And 9 times out of 10, well, no, 10 times out of 10, you're doing that because you think you deserve the condemnation that overwhelming brings to you. Like when your friends or family says something like, you ain't this, you ain't that. And you walk away like, man, and you're upset, and you even feel like, now I'm gonna give this to you again, brother. You know who I'm talking to. That you have to prove them wrong. That you take it upon your back to prove them wrong. They say black man ain't shit. And you feel you need to prove them wrong, is because you think you deserve to be told that. That's what's in your psyche. That's what needs to be confronted. It's that image of self where you think you're experiencing these karmic turnarounds because of something that you either have done, or just the image of yourself that says, I deserve to have to hear that. I deserve to have to experience this calamity. I deserve to have this level of pressure on myself. Now that's a sadistic aspect of the psyche that, again, we don't talk about much because it's a hard conversation to have with someone, especially when someone comes to someone like me. I'm not I'm not like a Catholic priest or something like that, where if you come to me and speak about a problem, you're coming to me because probably you want to know what's wrong with you. If I was like that type of minister. But usually when you're coming to an indigenous priest or someone who practices alternative spirituality, sometimes it's because you already went to the other kind of priest and they told you the problem was you didn't want to hear it. So you go to the indigenous one to tell you that somebody put a curse on you. That's the only reason why you're coming. You're not coming to hear anything else. It's so funny because I saw an image of someone yesterday. It's a celebrity that I've worked with before, and this individual, I remember they were recommended by another Hollywood figure to talk to me about something that was happening with them. And celebrities, people like that, they're surrounded by yes people, right? Now, you all probably know by now, I don't give a darn who you are. I don't care nothing about that. All right. Because I think I'm the baddest black man on the planet. So that's that. I don't care what stage you've been on or what award I could care less. Okay. I got beautiful youth that think I'm Superman. That's it. That's it. That's all the award I need. So I'm talking to the person and going through the issues that were happening. And there was a lot of like business problems with agents and accountants and stuff, and just a lot of stuff going on, right? And it's funny, like I said, I just saw an image of this person yesterday. Something happened with this person and they got like something. I don't want to say too much. I don't want anybody to try to figure out who it was. But I remember towards like maybe like 35, 40 minutes into the call, I could feel them just kind of totally dial out. And as I was talking, they were like, okay, all right, okay, all right, like, just, I want to just get this over with. And I wasn't saying anything off. I was banging them in the head in terms of like giving them, this is what's going on, boom, boom, this has to be addressed, that has to be addressed. Like, I'm going in. But they only called a quote unquote voodoo priest because they needed to know who in the industry was putting a curse on them that was causing their career not to take the turns that it was supposed to take. That's all, the only reason why they're talking to a voodoo priest. If I wanted to hear that there's something with me that I need to address, or something to me that I need to figure out, I would have went to a therapist. And even then, therapists go through the same trouble, the same problem. You see, so that goes back to the idea that I spoke about earlier. When you're holding on to something that is truly a fault in you, and you don't want to release that fault by being honest and truthful about it, it creates a pressure on both sides. Now, what that pressure does is it sends out globs. It's almost like blood clots, so it sends out bricks. So we look at the ajogan that we speak about. The ajogan are obstacles that one may have in their path. We say, oh, Eshu's the owner of the ajogan, the obstacles. And we don't understand that when we're sending out that level of resistance into our environment outside of us, what does resistance form? Like if I'm sending out flexibility, if I'm sending out a wave, what am I sending into the environment? A wave. If I'm sending out resistance, because I'm fighting what's coming in, I'm fighting what's trying to get out. Because as I'm speaking truth to this individual, speaking truth to their soul wants to raise their hand and say, yes, thank you, Chief. Yeah, that's what's going on. Yeah, the soul wants to have a conversation, but this person's psyche is stopping it. No, shut up, get back down there. Don't let him see you. It's like having children in a sweatshop or something. You stay at the bottom of these steps. Children in the attic. Oh no, it was flowers in the attic. It's like that. That movie Flower, the book, it was a book than a whack movie, but Flowers in the Attic. So they're trying to repress the truth that's inside of them. So now it has to harden itself. It becomes encased in their delusion. So now that is what the energy that they're emanating with outside into the universe. Hardened delusion. Well, that's like a stone. You're passing stones. You're passing rocks. So now when you look on your path and you say, I got so many obstacles, that's the stones you threw in your path because of your internal resistance. That's all that is. So then when you say to the person, okay, well, we got to deal with the internal truth that you're not facing yet or that you're not owning right now. They say, no. Okay, you don't understand, Chief. Let me word this in a way that you can understand. This has been going on for a very long time. Yeah, I got you. Okay, I hear you. But what I'm saying is that it's in you. You're projecting it outward, and you're owning what people are trying. You're owning the obstacles that people are trying to give to you because you're identifying with them, because those obstacles that are manifesting themselves that people are throwing at you are the obstacles that you're providing in your own internal pathways. So to make it simple for even people listening, if my arteries are blocked, because your arteries are roadways of Ashe, they send Ashe all around your body. If my arteries inside of my veins are blocked, my roadways to power outside of my body will be blocked. Real simple. Okay. Who clogs your arteries? You decided, oh man, I can go down the city 4 o'clock in the morning. I can go to Crown's Chicken and get me $2.35 2-piece chicken and fries. You did it. So now when someone comes along who sees it, does a divination and says, listen, yeah, man, you got some blockages and clogs. You're blocking. The truth is trying to come out inside of you. And you don't want to deal with that. So you're creating a force inside of you. It's ego, the militaristic egoic force. It sits inside of you. Okay. We could call it the MEF, militaristic egoic force. And it's blocking those roadways of truth and expansion inside of you. But you're projecting. Remember, you're a microcosm of a macrocosmic projection. So you're sending out that macrocosm out into the universe, out into your life, out into the world of truth comes, block it. Ascension comes, block it. Evolution comes, block it. Now, all of these things are wealth. So now when somebody comes into your periphery and they want to block you, what you do, because deep inside, you kind of deserve to be blocked because you understand the balance of things, you bring that person into your psyche, into your world. I don't know how they got here. I don't know. They came and they ran up my phone bill and they did this and they did that to me and they did that to me. I don't deserve this. What did I do to deserve this? And then me, I come take the machete out. Let's part the forest here and take a look. Oh, I see the MEF down there. Well, why did you deploy the MEF? Why did you deploy your militaristic egoic force? What's going on down there? Oh, no, that's not related. You don't understand, Chief. I'm talking about the. No, it is related. Because you only attach yourself. It's law of attraction in a sense, but it's deeper than the law of attraction. You only attach yourself to the karma that you feel that you deserve. That's how this thing works. And when you consistently don't create better causes inside of your own universe, you're consistently creating foul effects outside of your universe, which keeps you, I'm going to use the term again, chronically fatigued. You want to do a curse on someone? You know the easiest way to get at someone? I say this all the time. If they're stressed, there's two things: stress, lack of character. Now, what does lack of character bring? Stress. Because I'm not living as myself. I'm not functioning in my lane. Like, my lane may not be concerned with what's going on over there, but I have to pretend like I am, so I'm functioning outside of my character. Now, what does that bring? An internal stress. Like, I have friends, we came up, whatever, and like they like to work on cars, stuff like that. Like, they still on that, getting cars and flipping them and all that. I'm not there anymore. But it doesn't mean I don't like on Sundays, let's go motorcycle riding, let's go. I still might enjoy doing those things with them, but I have to now drop my head and admit, like, listen, I don't do that anymore. I don't have. So does that mean I'm out of the club? You see? So if I keep repressing that truth, it now creates stumbling block. Now all the timing belts are gonna pop. You see? Then I'll be saying, I got to decode that. What does that mean? Timing belt. Okay, well, timing. All right, so if you look at time is an aspect. It ain't even that deep, player. You take on too much. That's what it is. Okay. That's the sickness of Ogun. He works 24 hours a day, eats while he's working. That's his hell. That's not his heaven. So what I'm saying is, and I'm using again these small things, even with me as an example, because like I said, we're all on the road. Some of us are just a little further ahead than others, but we're all on the road. So those, again, like I said, those things project into your outer verse, and then once they project into your outer verse, any type of calamity or any type of energy that comes along, you're using your eyes to process, when you should be using your closed meditation to process. And when you use your eyes to process, then it connects itself to that idea of karmic avoidance inside of you. You see, it connects itself to that idea. And then now anybody who comes in your path that tries to put a stumbling block into your path, you accept them. Anybody could come up to you and say, black men ain't SHIT. You get upset, ready to fight them. Because you still have that repressed idea deep inside of you. And black men are SHIT. Well, no, that wouldn't be the opposite. I'm joking. But black men are about something. That idea coming forth, you're repressing that. You see? So as long as you're repressing that, you can't break through that wall. So there's always going to be that deserving idea that still exists, that organism that still exists, that spiritual and psychic organism that still exists within you, that's saying, I deserve that condemnation. So come on, bring some more. Oh, you said it too? Okay, come on. You saying? Okay. Everybody say it. I'll take it all on, because as long as my eyes are open and I'm not closing my eyes to meditate 90 seconds, to separate myself from the idea of my world attitude and personality, which the world attitude and personality is based around tension. As long as I'm not separating myself from that idea, then I'm going to try to use my limited intellect and psyche to resolve the entire ordering of the world. Impossible keeps you chronically fatigued. That has been KMunity. I want to thank you all for tuning in. And we'll be back first thing tomorrow dawning, 7 a.m. 7 a.m. is the dawning devotional. All right. So we get right for the strong end. before our Sunday Chief Speaks, where I'll be speaking about the equinox. All right. I want to thank you all for calling in, all the callers, all of the the YouTube viewers. Yeah, there we go. The YouTube viewers. I want to thank you all, and I will see you and speak to you tomorrow. Until such time.